What's up guys, Chris here from Science of Life. Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to build an ambient track from scratch. This is going to be a big video with a full-on PowerPoint, free VCV rack, so if you're into that kind of thing, please stay tuned. All right, so where I thought we'd start is with VCV rack. Now, I've created a VCV rack which you can download for free. The link is down below in the description. While you're there, you can download some other free stuff. You can book some time with me. I do ambient coaching, and that really helps me do what I do and keeps me making videos just like this one. All right, so that's how the cycle goes around. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna play in 81 beats per minute here, and we're gonna be playing in C minor here today. All right, so let's go ahead and start with VCV rack. Now I'm gonna grab the pro version of VCV rack 2. I'm gonna place it in my DAW. Again, this will totally work with the standalone version, and I'll give you some ways that you can get the audio from the standalone version into your DAW. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up. And this may sound, I don't know, weird to you, or it may look like a lot or not like much, depending on your proficiency level with VCV rack. Now, what I've created here is basically a random sample and hold thing that's kind of generating new notes and stuff like that, right? These modules, these S&H called sample and holds, right, are doing different things, okay? I'll go ahead and take some cables and I'll put them into a scope. And let's go ahead and nick this cable, make it a different color. There we go. And you can see, let me go ahead and move over here. You can see that there's new values that are being generated here with the sample and hold, right? And they're different values. They're not the same, but they're being generated at the same time. Now, why is this happening? Well, the reason why it's happening is we have this end of cycle output, the EOC, and these are in loop mode. These AD modules are in loop mode. So every time these finish, they're generating new gate messages to these, which are saying, hey, start, make a new value, right? And in turn, that's creating new notes here with the quantizers and the VCAs, and that's what's modulating the notes of both basal and palate. And that's further being modulated by this 8FO right here, which is an LFO that's sort of like a, multi-phase LFO. 8 LFOs right here, right? So a lot's going on here, okay? Or again, not much, depending on your level of understanding, right? But this can be used as the basis for a really good ambient track. Why? Because you have these different notes that are floating in and out, different sounds. Let's put some reverb and delay on this. You can hear where I'm going with this. Right? So again, you can download this whole rack for free. And what you can also do is you can record this in your DAW, right? And the way you do that is by taking the main outputs right here and plugging those main outputs into the rec module over here, okay? So just plug it into the monitor left and right, and you can record it, okay? And you can take that recording and put it back in your DAW. Now, because I'm running VCV Rack Pro 2 in the DAW, it's already there, okay? So that's how we're gonna get audio into our DAW, right? Now, let's take this one step further. I'm gonna grab a really cool delay, and we're gonna bliss this out. All right, so let's go to delays here and we'll grab more feedback machine 2. Oh boy. What is more feedback machine 2? Well, this is the second iteration of the more feedback machine, which we've had for a while, which is a quad delay, right? Let's go ahead and init this thing. Now, doesn't sound like much right now, but watch this. So we have 4 delays here, which are all running. Look what happens when I start changing the delay times here of some of these, right? Changing the output levels, okay? Changing where they're going. We can also change the matrix from 4 mono to like quad network, right? Oh yeah. This gets really cool really fast, okay? Change some of the filtering here. We can come over to the modulation matrix and say, all right, well, let's have, I don't know, the panning be modulated on this one. Our source is gonna be LFO1. Turn it up. Okay, we'll come back to the LFOs here. Oh yeah. of LFO1 from LFO2. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like, this gets really crazy really fast. Like I said. Oh yeah. So now that rate is changing. Okay. We can turn up the wet value here, turn up the feedback of everything. Oh yeah. So we have this quad network here that's happening. Now we can turn up our reverb again. Oh my God. I mean, this delay is nuts. That was the tip of the iceberg. We have MSEGs here, full on mod matrix, effects. Let's have some effects. Let's have some granular effects here. Oh yeah. Put in reverse. I mean, come on now. Yeah. That's wild. Okay, let's go to the PowerPoint. So, like promised, full on PowerPoint here, right? We're gonna build this track from scratch, and we're gonna do it layer by layer until we reach our goal. But we've already set a huge part of it right now with the top layer, the drone VCV rack / virtual modular. Now you could do this in Cardinal, you could do it in Soft 2 modular, voltage modular, whatever you got, you know? Whatever works for you. I'm using VCV rack. Again, you can just drop this right into your DAW and start there, okay? So, this is a great starting point. And I think that, you know, letting yourself kind of drift off into this imaginary space, like, okay, what is possible? You saw me, I put a creative delay. I mean, it doesn't have to be more feedback machine too. You could use Valhalla delay, you could use a stock delay, you could use Timeless 3, like anything you got, right? So let's start now with our secondary pad, okay? We're gonna put a secondary pad on top of this, which is gonna be more steady and not so random, all right? Again, we're playing at 81 beats per minute. C minor here, okay? We'll rename this VCV. And let's go ahead and grab current, okay, for our steady pad. Now, some of you might not have current. You can feel free to use Serum or Vital here, no problem. All good. Let's go back to our main. With current, what we're gonna do is we're going to adjust our envelope real quick. Let's give it a 4-second envelope, 4-second release, 4-second decay, lower the sustain down. We can zoom out here by adjusting the time value, adjust our curves here. That's looking good, all right. We can put our filter on, and we can say oscillator A and oscillator B are going through the filter, okay. Turn down the resonance a little bit. We can adjust these wave tables here. We got some wave tables here. One's from the Patreon pack, made by yours truly, very good, all right. Again, these could be stock wave tables, no worries. Let's take an LFO and let's move that position of that wave table. We'll make this bipolar. There we go. And we'll come over to the LFO and lower the rate down here to like 4 bars. Okay. So let me just reiterate what I just did. I started with an envelope here. We have the classic signs, you know, 4-second attack, decay, and release, right? Lower the sustain down around 75%. And then I took an LFO and I lowered the rate down to 4 bars and I started modulating the position knob here, okay? That's good. Let's go ahead and play this, see what it sounds like. All right? So it's very similar. It's like in the similar note range here, okay? And that's why it's a secondary pad. We still have a bass layer left to go, and so we're gonna get there, but for now, it's cool. We can also modulate some other things. We can modulate like the spectral formant. Let's do shift. Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Let's modulate that with another LFO. We'll grab this, put it on the warp mode here. We'll make a bipolar again. And we'll say, all right, let's randomize this. I love the random LFOs on current, they're so good. Yeah, there we go. We'll also use that same random LFO on our filter over here. There we go. I like it, I like it. Sounded good already. Oh yeah. Great. Okay, let's add a second oscillator here. And we may choose to leave that at a sawtooth. We'll come back to that in a second. Analog edge. I have not even played with all of these wavetables here. Some of them are sounding really good already. Oh yeah, all right. Let's do drift. Fold bits. Oh, interesting. I mean, they really thought about this synthesizer. It's not like this was just like, you know, an accident. This was totally planned out, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's great. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's add some unison to the second oscillator. 3 voices unison, and we'll take the detune down. Okay, 4 voices. Yeah. There we go. We can randomize. Ooh, we can randomize the detune value with our random LFO. That's good. Okay. Now we got a full-on drone. You can hear the unison almost brings like a stereo effect to that. So if you're with me up to this point, cool. We'll add some reverb onto there. Again, I'm using the FabFilter Pro R2 on my send effect. You might be using something different if you're using Supermassive because it's free, no worries. You can use Supermassive here. You can also put it as an insert effect. It doesn't have to be a full-on send effect, but I think send effects are a good way to go, right? Oh, that's gorgeous. So you can hear the contrast between those two things, right? Sounded good. I like where this is going. Okay, so let's also modulate the position with that random LFO. We didn't do that yet. We'll make that bipolar. There we go. We can add sub-oscillator here. We'll lower the octave down by 1. There we go. Turn the level down. Very nice, very nice. Oh yeah, there's all kinds of like things we can do. We can use that random LFO on the Spectra tilt. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Just let your mind go crazy with current. Like, it's wild. I'll leave a link down below in the description for this synthesizer. It's one of the best synthesizers out right now, to be honest with you. Okay. Oh yeah, that's great. We have a sampler here. We're not going to use that. And we didn't even touch the granular engine, but I mean, as a starting point, this is great. This is fantastic. Okay. Let's lay down some notes here to counterbalance our VCV. Okay, and how we're gonna do this is we could either use one of the Ableton Live 12 generative things, or just to keep things simple, we can just kind of draw something in. All right, I think I'll do that. I'm blocking the MIDI here, but you can see that I'm just drawing some MIDI in, you know, like nothing crazy. We'll do a long C note over the whole thing. Over most of it, at least. And this is another C note, and this is a G note right here. And then a B flat, all right, for a while. Switch the chord. We'll add an E flat up here at bar 5, okay? And we'll rinse and repeat. So feel free to kind of add whatever you feel like. I'm just kind of going off feel here, adding some sus chords, some minor chords, things like that. Doesn't have to be serious. It can just be something improvisational and random. But that's kind of the fun of it. Like, ambient is not supposed to be this hard edge, like, oh, it has to be a certain way. Like, there's no rules here. You know what I mean? Like there's no rules. The only rule is to express yourself. Have fun with it. And we'll do one more chord down here. There we go. We can add that a little later. All right, cool. So now we have a 64 bar loop here with current and VCV rack. That sounded good. I like that. We might want to even open the filter up a little bit more. So let's come back over here to current and just open the filter ever so slightly. Yeah. Give it just a little bit extra timbre to, like, you know, start reaching towards the outer edges, you know what I'm saying? Because it's got that randomness to it. I like it. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint. So we just created the secondary pad, and that was great. But now we need to ground ourselves. We need to ground the whole track, right? So let's now shift over and do like a bass layer with Serum. Now, again, you don't have to use Serum. You can use Vital here. You can use anything you want. But we're going to sort of set the tone here and then start building the rest of our track on top of it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create our base layer, and then we're gonna start creating some of our sequences. All right, so let's go back to our main window here, and I've chilled out the track for a second. Let's go ahead and rename this current, and we will go ahead and drop Serum here. Again, you could use Vital here if you want. You could use current again if you got it. Either one will work. Okay, let's go ahead and grab Serum, and what we're gonna do is we're going to create a bass sound with Serum. Now, bass sounds are not that hard to make. You know, your mileage may vary. Maybe, you know, you use something that's existing already, like a preset. I'm just gonna build one from scratch. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and just leave this bass, you know, envelope as it is. We'll go ahead and create a filter. We'll make that 24 dB, okay? And we'll play a nice low note here. That looks good. And we'll go ahead and make this a unison bass. So we'll make like 4 voices in unison, lower the D-tune down, okay? And we can go ahead and add a sine wave here on the second oscillator. There we go, okay? And we'll leave that out of the filter, and then we'll go ahead and add some resonance, add some drive here. Very good, okay. This sounds great. We can add some effects here. Let's go ahead and add a compressor to this, okay? Multi-band compressor, all right? We'll lower the attack down and up the release. There we go, lower the mix down here a little bit. Lower the lows, the highs down a little bit on this multiband. There we go. We can add some chorus to this and put that below the compressor. Okay. Lower down the rate here. Change the mix. There we go. Cool. And we'll finally add some reverb to this. I have a preset here, which works for me. Let's go ahead and use this one right here. There we go. Oh yeah, just like that. All right, let's go ahead and add the VC rack back. We'll hit play on the track. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So you can hear as soon as the rest of the track kicks in, that low, deep reverb bass. Oh yeah, that's gorgeous. It's so subtle, but at the same time so effective, right? So nothing much to this. Let's add an LFO to the filter here. So we'll grab LFO1 and drag it up to the cutoff. Very nice, very nice. But ambient is really all about that subtle movement, right? You're not really like concerned about things being up front so much as them just kind of fading off into the background, right? So with a bass sound, if it's there, you feel grounded. If it's not there, something's missing, right? So that's why I always make sure to add the bass sound wherever possible, right? You can have like a triangle here, put it down an octave. Put that through the filter as well. This is good. Now, as far as changing the notes goes, you can, and I've done that in like hundreds of tracks, right? But for a track like this, I don't think it needs it. Just a nice long note here as our bass layer would be good, okay? So we'll drag a nice MIDI clip here. It's like 64 bars again. Find the note that we're playing. We're playing a C0. And we'll go ahead and draw that in. And just drag it all the way across, okay? And we'll go ahead and start the track back at bar 0. And there you go, all right? Maybe a little too much filter leakage, so we'll go ahead and lower that down. There we go. Very nice, very nice. Add a little bit of extra reverb here. I like that, I like that. So it's not, you know, a full-on in-your-face bass. But it's there, all right, it's there, okay? And again, we could do a little bit of further modulation, like, you know, Maybe taking a secondary LFO right here, make kind of a cool shape, draw something in here, like this, right? And maybe we'll make that like a modulation source for the detune, okay? Slow it down like tremendously, like 8 bars, right? So it subtly detunes even more over time. You could even use the like modulate X, you know, with this and say, all right, LFO1 could be the source of like a modulating, right? Did you guys know you could do that, right? So you can modulate the modulators in Serum. It's been a feature for a couple years. Very cool. We can do that with the Y2 if we want. Just to let you know it's there. So just right click and modulate X or modulate Y. Pretty cool stuff. All right, so we got the bass. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. Now our bass layer is in. So you know what it's time for. It's time for some sequences. And right now we're still in like space ambient territory. And I like where we are because when people think of ambient, I'm holding air quotes here, ambient, that's what they think about. They think about slow music, minimal music, right? I'm someone who believes that ambient can be as far out as even like rhythmic ambient, like all the way to like Sybient. When you approach that territory, you're still in the ambient zone, right? And so when I add a sequence, I'm still calling my music ambient because this is where I started. Like this is it. So don't let anybody try to gaslight you into saying, oh, it's not ambient. Dude, you're making music, man. Like I said, there's no rules. Okay. All right. Let's go back to our track. And we got that named Serum. We got on loop. We're sounding good. I like this. Let's turn that down a little bit. There we go. Okay, cool. We're gonna do some arrangement at the end, but right now, things are sounding good. All right, let's add a sequence here. And we will grab Stepic, of course. We'll grab Stepic for our sequencer. Again, you could plug this in by hand. Feel free, like you don't need to like use Stepic to make a good track. You can absolutely do this by hand. I'm gonna use Vital because it's free and you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna draw my sequence in before I actually get to making the sequence, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna turn off Vital, I'm gonna turn on Stepic, open up Stepic, and we'll do like an 8th note sequence. You guys have seen me do this before, but I'm gonna do it again. Because I think it's important to kind of like make sure that you got your bass down, right? We're playing in C minor, okay? And this is gonna be a very subtle sequence. Nothing to this sequence, really, okay? Again, I changed the notes here to G and F. The rest are C's, okay? We could dice some of these, so like sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, and then dice that even further. So like sometimes you get a blank note, sometimes you don't. So just subtle skips, you know? I've diced the, what I mean by dice, the purple dice here is no possibility of repeating, but it's in random mode, okay? And then I've diced some of the octaves, so sometimes it's gonna be an octave up. With velocity, I can randomize the velocity, okay? Fully randomized velocity. So we can change that, and it's also in random mode, so sometimes the steps are gonna be, you know, hitting pretty hard, and we'll adjust the filter accordingly. And then I'm gonna add 1 note of dividing here to make a little ratchet, okay? We'll do like a full-on ratchet on one of the notes here, okay? And it's divided as well. So we have random, 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 okay? And it's running in 8th notes. Just wanna make that clear. Okay, cool, all set up. Now, back in Vital, all right? Let's go ahead and adjust our decay to around a ½ second, okay? Take the sustain all the way out of it. Release doesn't really matter, all right? We'll add 2 wavetables. One is going to be a sawtooth. The other one is going to be something that I made. You can use your own wavetable or use a stock wavetable. Doesn't matter. Let's go to the user folder, actually. I've got some way better ones down here from the Science Custom Wavetable Series from Patreon. And that's looking good. We'll do like, actually, is that the right series? There we go. Sines wavetable from Patreon. That's looking good. All right, cool. So we'll put both of these through the filter, okay? Meaning oscillator 1 and oscillator 2 are selected down here, and we'll make it 24 dB. And we will do some randomization on this position of oscillator 2, okay? And we'll put it in Perlin mode, 1/1. We'll also take the note velocity, or the velocity modulator over here, we'll drag it over to this bottom slider here, which is the cutoff, okay? And we'll adjust its amount. That's why we added randomized velocity earlier, is because we want to make sure that the filter moves accordingly when it actually hits. We can even add randomized velocity to the resonance here on the vertical slider, which will give us a little bit more juice, so to say, when that hits. All right, that's cool. We can add an LFO set to sync mode. I'll put it on sync mode at like 8/1, and we'll put it over here on the LFO. That's looking good. And I think that's about it. That's about all I want to do. We could also add some, you know, randomized like squeeze and stuff. Like we can do that. We can put this in bipolar. A cool hack that someone taught me in the comments on my YouTube channel was holding shift and doing that, and then it becomes bipolar by default. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's go ahead and play that. And we'll turn on Stepic. We'll add a little bit of delay here. From our send effect, again, I'm using dotted 8th note delay. You can use that straight in Vinyl. Yes. That is very interesting. I just did what is called designing blind, meaning I didn't know what it was going to sound like. I didn't even press a note before I actually hit it. But the randomized resonance is actually the surprise here. The randomized resonance is actually pretty cool. I like it. So you can hear that that's like a very subtle sequence here. Now, what we can do is we can lower, I wanted to lower the cutoff down. Now this gets into like the real nuanced, like, oh, you know, what kind of ambient is that? You know what I'm saying? Why? Because when you lower the cutoff, you're not allowing the LFO to fully open up, okay? And this LFO is set to 8/1, which is giving you some real subtle vibes here to let the VCV rack come in and the current, and then you let that sequence come in. So you're almost doing like a call and response, but it's more like allowing space to happen, okay? There's a saying that we like to say in my inner circle is, let the LFOs tell their own story. Yeah, that's a good one. So this LFO is traveling over time. The velocity is randomizing the filter position. We got a random modulator over here doing its thing. I love that. Very subtle. Perfect. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. All right, so now we just created our first sequence. And that sequence can be the basis of the rest of our track. It's called rhythmic sequence, right? It's because you can feel it's like a very rhythmic part of the track itself, right? It has rhythm to it. Because we added that with all the velocity and all the randomized stuff, like, it's perfect. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to add some field recordings to really kind of spice things up, give it a little bit of texture. And then we have 2 more sequences that we can add to really add more context to our overall track. We have sequence 2, and then we're gonna add a middle sequence to break the whole thing down and then bring it all back towards the finish line. So now let's talk about field recordings. Field recordings can be a great way to add texture to your track. They can add some more context to the story that you're trying to tell. And field recordings can come from anywhere, whether you recorded them yourself, whether you use the free to use sounds link down below in the description. That's the best collection of field recordings that I've found on the internet. Whatever you got, right, can really add some context to your track. So I'm gonna use something that I recorded myself, and let's go back to our track here. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna grab first of all, I'm gonna make a new track. So in Ableton, I'll just do a Control T, and we'll make a new audio track. And then I'll grab one from my library. Now, this is a Crowded Temple Scene 6. This was me I recorded this in Japan, and this is me just sitting in the middle of a crowded temple scene, and it was pretty wild. It was like there was lots of people around, lots of things happening around me, right? You can hear, like, there's lots of texture there. I love it. Okay. So what we can do is the first thing, we can kind of like maybe back this up by a bar and duplicate it, okay? And then we can back this one up and shorten this by a bar. And then what we can do is we can crossfade these guys. So we can say, all right, now we can crossfade these by a whole, I don't know, this is a whole bar, because we shortened it up just like you do in Premiere. And now we have like a full on like crossfaded, right? That works for me. That's cool. We can go ahead and like fade this in and fade this in on the other side. There we go. So that's good. Now, what would be even cooler is if we sort of like filtered this out a little bit, right? So let's go ahead and we're gonna collapse this. I'm gonna lower this down. We'll collapse our little utility production channel strip. And then we're gonna grab an auto filter, okay? So let's grab an auto filter here. Yeah, the auto filter from Ableton. Again, you could use something different. And what we're gonna do is you can use a low pass filter, that works. Or you can use a band pass filter. We can switch it to the third option right here. There we go. Yeah, very nice, right? Now, it's got its own internal modulator on here. You could use that, or you could use a secondary LFO. Again, you could do this differently in Bitwig. Whatever method you have, you could modulate an EQ, for an example. Like, there's lots of possibilities here. So let's lower down the depth here, and we'll go ahead and hit map, and we'll put this on the filter frequency. There we go. So now it's moving. You can hear that. Lower down the rate even further. Oh yeah, add some reverb to this. Oh, that's great, right? So that really leads us into like whatever's next in our track, right? Now, as promised in the PowerPoint, what we're gonna do is we're gonna reverse these later in the middle point to kind of provide even more ethereal context to our track. But as a starting point, think about what you can do with field recordings, right? Because that doesn't even sound like the crowded temple scene anymore. It sounds way different. It sounds like radio static or something. You could pitch this up or down, right? You could do all kinds of things. And that's what I love about ambient is, again, it's open-ended, right? All right, cool. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. Now, we took care of the beginning field recordings. Now what we need to do is we need to bring back our VCV rack. Go ahead and do that. And we need to create our secondary sequence, right? A sequence that complements that initial rhythmic sequence, okay? So let's go ahead and do that now, back in the main window, and really move this track towards the finish line. I'm gonna go ahead and recolor this. Maybe we'll make this a different color track. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll add a secondary sequence. I'm gonna go ahead and chill out VCV for now. And we'll add another instance of Stepic. All right, so let's grab Stepic here and we'll put it onto our track. With this instance of Stepic, what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave it on 16th notes. And we're also going to leave it on 16 steps, right? So let's go ahead and just add some basic adjustments here. We can add maybe like something like this, another G and F, maybe a D note here, and maybe a G sharp, or G sharp, A flat, whatever you want to say. And that's cool. And what we can do is we can randomize the direction here and then add a bunch of 1 octave plus, and we'll add some velocity to this, and we'll randomize that velocity and then add 1 or 2 notes of division or ratchets, okay? Cool, all right, that's good. All right, let's go ahead now and leave that as is. I like that where it's at. And now let's go ahead and we'll randomize, actually we'll randomize the direction up here and we'll put some of these on dice mode. There we go, perfect. So sometimes they're gonna ring out, sometimes they are not. Okay, let's go ahead and add another synthesizer here. And we'll go ahead and play our track. And you can hear the rhythmic sequence that's already playing, right? Again, back to our first initial sequence. This is playing in 1/8 notes, but our new one is playing in 16th notes, so it's gonna be a little faster. But you already wanna think about, what is that sound? What is the sound of the sequence that's going to come on top of this, right? Is it gonna be, right? Or is it gonna be like something that's gonna complement what's already there, right? I'm gonna go with the latter, and I'm gonna try to create something that's just about in line with that, but at the same time, really kind of ties the whole thing together, okay? So let's go ahead and create that. Let's go ahead and turn off Stepic for a second. I'll grab, say, Serum, because I'm really comfortable with Serum. Again, you can use Vital, Current, whatever you have. Pigments even will work here. So let's go ahead and use Serum, and we'll go ahead and we'll make this a analog. You know what? We'll make this a custom wavetable. We'll make this one of my wavetables here, and let's go ahead and adjust this. There we go. That works for me. And we'll leave that out of it, and we'll put the first one in the filter. What I mean by is this A and B is the filter adjustment. Like you can either send an oscillator through a filter or not. We'll lower down the level to like 30% here, like this. So this is just free running, or just free, you know, it's doing its thing. We'll put it on mirror, which is kind of cool. I love this. I wish this was in Vital, but it's not. So there we go. We can put it in mirror mode. And we'll go ahead and add a random chaos modulator to this by going to chaos 1. That's cool. And we'll add another LFO here. I'm gonna put this in 8 bars. We'll put that over there. Now, here's the most important thing, is that we need to make sure that this LFO is really tight, okay? So it's gonna be, we're gonna limit the range so it doesn't really move that much, okay? And I'll tell you why, is because we wanna make sure that this sequence doesn't get in the way or steal the spotlight from the other sequence, okay? So that's cool. We can lower down the decay here to around like, I don't know, 500 milliseconds. That looks good. We can take a secondary envelope and make it even shorter than that, and then tie that to the filter and lower down its influence like that. Cool. This is sounding good already, even though I haven't heard it. So let's go ahead, add some, put this through the synth bus. We'll add some delay here, add some reverb, and ignite Stepic and see what this sounds like. Oh yeah, very nice. Excellent. Oh yeah. Let's go ahead and solo this. You can hear that, right? Yes. Yes, yes. That's fantastic. Oh yeah, nice. Let's add a compressor to this. Turn up the gain. Lower down the attack. Lower the threshold down so it actually kicks in. There we go. Oh yeah, that's great. I need to lower down the speed of Chaos 1 here. There we go. Oh, this is fantastic. Right on. Okay, there we go. So that's cool, right? Oh yeah. There we go. So that's providing even more, like, you don't know which way is up at this point. But would you guess that that's 2 sequences playing at the same time? Maybe if they came in at different times, right? Let's go back to our PowerPoint real quick and look what we have to do. So now we have to think about our arrangement, because now we've put in sequence 2 down there at the bottom. We already started our rhythmic sequence. We have our field recordings in. We're getting there, right? Let's think about the overall picture though. How do we want to paint this picture? How do we want things to flow in and out, right? It's great to do, you know, work in 64 bars like we did and really get an idea of what it's going to sound like. But then at some point, you need to start arranging it and pulling things apart and saying, all right, how is this all going to flow in and out? Let's do that right now, okay? I'm going to set my loop marker to 200, which is going to give us a huge overall arching timeline here, okay? And we can leave VCV as it is. and we can say, all right, here is our initial field recording. That's cool. Let's put in the rhythmic sequence by coming over to Stepic, and we'll drag in 16 bars of this MIDI here, okay? We'll make the, I mean, for completion's sake, let's make this even green because we made it green in the PowerPoint, all right? And the rhythmic sequence is gonna be here. Now what we can do is we can actually drag in 16 more bars of this MIDI, okay? Because it's different, okay? Every time you drag something random in from Stepic, it's gonna be something different, which is amazing. I don't know how it does it in real time. It's not my job, but hey, you just use the tools, right? So that's cool. We can duplicate this over, all right? That's looking good. And we can even duplicate our bass. And if we need to cut this, we can, or separate it out. We can even separate it out now. There we go. Our secondary pad is there. That's good, okay? And that's our rhythmic sequence. Maybe we'll just cut it there. Let's do that. Okay, cool. All right, excellent. Now let's drag in 16 more bars of this MIDI, and this is our 16th note MIDI. So I'll go ahead and set the bar count to 16. Use the little button up here. You see where I'm at? Drag it over, and now we have our sequence 2, okay? Which is actually going to come in before the rhythmic sequence, okay? And we can actually do that again. Let's do that again. Cool. So now we have 32 bars of like sequenced MIDI here. Duplicate that over. Great. And we'll stop it there. And we'll go like this. Duplicate one more time. And there you go. Now it's coming back in. Great. So this is looking already more like what we have on our PowerPoint over here. Okay. So now what's left? We still have left to create our middle sequence, all right? What I'm calling the middle sequence, 16th note middle sequence. But what is this? This is like a moment of pause where you can say to yourself, okay, where are we? And dip into the void, that I like to say. And that's what we're gonna create on the other side. All right, so let's bring this track home to the finish line. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add our middle sequence, but we're also gonna add a bass line to really build the foundation of the middle of our track. I'll show you what I mean. So we're gonna add 2 more MIDI tracks here. Let's go ahead and add 2 more MIDI tracks. And the first MIDI track, we're gonna call it Bass 2. And then we're gonna add the next track, and that's gonna be called Middle Sequence. Okay, now for our bass line, what I'm gonna do is show you how to draw a cool bass line by hand. All right, so I want you to make a MIDI clip here in the middle of the track and make it 1 bar long. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch our grid to 8th notes, all right? And the 8th note grid, we're going to punch in a couple notes here on C0. Now our first note is gonna be 3 8th notes long, okay? Our next note is gonna be 1 8th note long, and the next note is gonna go behind my camera, but it's gonna be 4 8th notes long. And that's gonna equal 1 bar. So we have 3 8th notes, 1 8th note, and then a 4 8th note MIDI clip. Okay, now we can duplicate this MIDI clip 4 times or whatever you want. And then in Ableton, you can do this differently in your DAW. I can hit Control J to consolidate those, and then I can duplicate it again as long as the middle of our track. Okay, that's looking good. Now let's design the bass that's going to be driving this MIDI clip. For that, I'm gonna use Serum. Again, you could use Pigments here, you could use Vital, whatever synthesizer you feel comfortable with. Okay, so let's use Serum here, and what we're gonna do is just design a simple filtered sawtooth bass. Okay, it's gonna be a pluck bass, so what we're gonna do, the first thing, is we're going to lower down the sustain, right? And we're gonna adjust our decay to like, I don't know, 600 milliseconds, that looks good. Adjust our filter to like 24, and then we're gonna make a second envelope here, about half as long, and tie that to the cutoff. Now, if it comes in as bipolar, do Shift-Alt-Click, and that makes it unipolar. On a Mac, that'll probably be Shift-Option-Click, and that's looking good. And then we'll tie an LFO, an 8-bar LFO to that cutoff, just like that. Okay, let's see how that sounds in the middle of our clip. Oh yeah, excellent. Let's turn on our VCB rack. Perfect, right? So what we did here is we created like a nice subtle bass line right in the middle. We can add some delay and reverb to this. Oh yeah, perfect, excellent. Lower down the cutoff just a little bit more. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so that's gonna set the tone. Oh yeah, there comes that current pad right there, yeah? Okay, cool. That's gonna set the tone to really add context to our sequence that we're about to build on top of this, all right? I'm gonna chill out the VCB rack for a second, and let's go ahead and draw this in by hand as well. Okay, so I'm gonna make a 4-bar MIDI clip, just like this, Control-Shift-M. And let's go ahead and draw this in by hand. Now, your mileage may vary. You might want to use Stepic here. That's totally fine. What I'm going to do is just draw this in by hand. You can go ahead. I'm going to leave this on 16th notes as my grid division. And you can just go ahead and do like some random notes here. One trick that I like to use is using like, Control-D. And then I can, kind of duplicate some of these notes here. That works. Whatever you feel like. You can use the arrow keys to kind of move it up and down. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to kind of create this sequence that's sort of gradually moving upwards. You can skip notes if you want, right? So you see by the time we get to 2 bars, right? We're all the way at the peak of our sequence. And now we can kind of move around over here, up and down, just like this. I'll go ahead and punch these in so you guys don't have to listen to me clacking on my keyboard. There we go. Add some more notes here, just a couple more. And what we'll do is we'll randomize this velocity and then we'll use that velocity into our actual track. So we'll come down here to the bottom and we'll select all of these notes and we'll randomize the velocity just like that. Now let's design our patch, okay? So I'm going to add another synth. Let's add Serum here again. You could use current or vital, whatever you got that's gonna make a nice wavetable sawtooth. That's looking good, okay? And now let's open this up again and we're gonna make a nice little pluck. So let's go ahead and do the same, similar to the baseline, except for this one, we're gonna use a wavetable here. So let's use like one of my wavetables, just like this from the Patreon pack. There we go, that's looking good. We'll put this on mirror mode. That's looking cool. We'll do like another LFO here. And we'll do like a random LFO. That's looking good. Okay, and we'll tie that to the mirror mode and make that bipolar. Excellent. And now we'll add a filter here and we'll make this a 24 low pass filter. We'll keep this one out of the filter and keep the other one in the filter. That's looking good. And we'll do the same pluck thing that we did with the last one, just like this. And yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's do LFO 1. And we'll do a 4-bar LFO and tie that to the cutoff. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna add some dotted 8th note delay to this sequence, add some reverb, and let's go ahead and put this through the synth bus and see how it sounds. Yes! I like that. I like that. Oh my gosh. All right, you could duplicate it again, right? And duplicate it 4 times, and then boom, now you have this beautiful sequence that comes in. Oh my gosh. Fantastic. We can add a multi-band compressor here. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Add some gain to this. Wow. Oh my gosh. All right, so now what we can do, we can add this secondary sequence or sequence 2, right? That can start right over here. Oh yeah, there comes that pad. Yes. Yeah, we're bringing it back. Now, as promised, we can also reverse our field recordings. So let's go ahead and duplicate these over. Just like this. Let's select one of these, put it in clip view, reverse this. Oh, there comes that secondary sequence. Let's duplicate this again. Oh, we're reaching outer space now. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. And then finally, our rhythmic sequence is gonna come in. Oh, this is nuts. Yes. Yes. You see what I'm saying? It's all about building context, really. When you put all these different parts together, how are you building these worlds? How is your tracks coming together to form this greater whole, right? And that's how ambient comes together. I don't care how you made it, whether it was presets or you made it by scratch like I did, you followed this tutorial to the letter, however you got there, there we are. Oh my gosh, now we have this beautiful Serum sequence. And this is ambient, y'all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you really enjoyed this tutorial, that's the best feeling in the world. I cannot explain how grateful I am for you guys to be watching this video all the way to the end. And yeah, if you want to support me and support this channel, I do tutorials like this all the time on Patreon. So if you really love this kind of content, head over to Patreon. I've got 5 different tiers there. You can join at the ambient presets tier and get all the presets. You can join the ambient tutorials tier and get all the tutorials. I do ambient one-on-one coaching, so if you want to take lessons from me on how to do this for real, I can work with you one-on-one, and that's what sustains me and keeps me going, and we go on and on into the future. Anyway, I'll be back again soon with more tutorials just like this one. Leave a comment down below if you really enjoyed this. Let me know how it goes. I love hearing from you guys, and yeah, let's keep doing this. Let's go on and on into the future we go. Take good care, you guys, and as always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. My name is Chris from Science of Life. I'll see you all in the next video.